Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. My name is, of course, Elliot Bond. You all know me as the face of the British Esports Twitch. I am glad to be here with you on this fine Monday afternoon. It is bright blue skies outside where I am. I hope you're all getting some nice weather finally as well. Thank you, everybody in the chat who's joined us today, especially for everybody who's followed as well. Really appreciate you guys turning up. So just quickly before we get started, obviously you know why you're all here. We have an amazing interview lined up today with Nathan Edmonds from Excel. But just before we get stuck into that, I just want to remind you of a couple of British esports updates. Of course, we will be having our championships games coming in on Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and that will be Rocket League this week. We've got two great games lined up for you, so please do tune into those. And then, of course, Friday, which would normally be my sort of fun Friday community session. This week, I've actually got an amazing tournament for you guys run in conjunction with DMP Productions, which is going to be Splatoon 2. So if you're interested in Splatoon or just finding out a little bit more about the scene, please do come along. That will start at 7 p.m. on Friday. Thank you very, very much, everybody in the chat, for joining. I appreciate you all being here. And without further ado, let me bring in my guest today, of course, Nathan Edmonds from Excel, who's going to be talking to us a little bit about his journey and his life so far. Hi, Nathan. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. We've had a little chat before this, so yeah, I'm just to talk for a little bit. I like doing these things.
Good. So, first of all, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm currently the social media manager at XL Esports. I have been for a year now. It was my year. I want to say it was my year 2 weeks ago, I think, and it's coming up to, unfortunately, a week until lockdown. So I moved to London, lived with like the players in the player houses for 2 weeks, and then boom, lockdown hit. Had to move all the way back. So that was fun. And we're nearly up to a year anniversary of that, which is super negative way to start, but yeah. So I've been with Excel for a year now. It's been hell of a journey. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Some people will know me from the Radiant days, of course, but right now, social media manager.
So, tell me about the Radiant days. What's this Radiant I've heard so much about?
God, we could talk about that. Like, we could spend the whole hour talking about Radiant if we wanted to. I mean, Radiant is my baby in a sense. It's an amateur organization I started back in 2015 in September. I ended it, unfortunately, October 2019. That was just because, look, I had to focus on my esports career. It was too busy. It wasn't bringing in any money. As amateur organizations, it's quite difficult to generate any revenue. But yeah, I mean, I credit like my entire career to Radiant because, look, without Radiant, that's probably the biggest shining light on my CV.
It's very radiant, one might say.
Yeah, it's very Radiant. I mean, we can throw out Radiant and XLJ all day in this stream. I think there's enough to go through. But yeah, I mean, look, I started it as a 15-year-old, continued it up until I ended it at age 20, at age 19, sorry. But yeah, it was something that, look, it started off as just like a little clan, little sniping clan with friends, but it turned into, I guess, one of the top leading amateur organizations in the UK, which I'm proud to say. That we went to Las Vegas, had a sponsored team house. We went to all across the globe. We came second at a Malta Call of Duty event. We did a 13-day charity live stream continuously with big line sponsors. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm super proud like talking about it because it was my baby. But yeah, I mean, that gives it like the short rundown. I don't think it does it enough justice, but it's difficult for me to talk about Radiant sometimes because I don't give it enough credit. It did do a lot of things for me, and it did what I hope changed the amateur community for the better. I think a lot of people looked up to Radiant as like the organization to be, and you know, when I unfortunately ended it, it was a super sad moment. But look, everything happens for a reason. We had to move on. I had to move on personally with my career, but yeah, that's a short rundown of
Yeah.
my little baby.
Give me 5 years of history in 35 seconds, please. No, no worries. So, I mean, is that what got you into esports? Was it something, or did you have that passion beforehand, or like how did you first kind of discover esports, and what made you want to go down that journey?
Yeah, I'd say I was interested in gaming esports a while before, but I think my interest in like owning my own brand or organization or whatever you want to call it, probably came from like I started watching Hex, Nade Shot, Scump were like the main three, and that really got me, I guess, sparked my interest in esports because I played Call of Duty at the time. I played amateur level Call of Duty, and hence that kind of like entered me into the esports world. I was never really good. Like I was awful in Ghosts, and then I got slightly better in Advanced Warfare, which I was super proud about. That affected the ego quite a bit because I was one of the better players on the team then, which was good. And that's the same year that I started Radiant, so maybe the confidence helped there. But yeah, I mean, I credit it to probably more Call of Duty, which is strange now because I'm not interested in COD at all these days.
Okay.
I'm more interested in League of Legends, but that comes down to, I guess, my thoughts on what Activision Blizzard have done to the Call of Duty scene and how I don't agree with it personally because it's kind of tore apart the amateur scene. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an interview topic on its own, that one.
We can go down that rabbit hole maybe one day. But yeah, I mean, look, I credit it mostly to Nadeshot, Scump, and Hex. I think were the main kind of content creators that I watched and watched growing up. Really sparked my interest in this industry. But Radiant, yeah, was this first kind of experience running everything at once, operations, marketing, everything under my banner. Which sounds stressful, but I guess as an amateur organization, you're not pumping out as much as you do as a professional level, so it's much easier to run. Yeah, I hope that answers it.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're super humble about it as well, and it's nice for it to like have that reflection and be able to kind of take a step back and look at it objectively. I think that's really important, especially when it was your kind of journey in your business, and not many people have that retrospective attitude and ability to look back and say, hey, look, what would I have done differently or whatever. That's really, really important. So listen, guys, everybody in chat, if you have any questions for Nathan as we go through, please do feel free to chuck them into chat. I will read as and when I can. If I do miss them, of course, I apologize, but we'll try and go back to them at the end, so there will be opportunity there if I've missed something. There's a couple of people in chat at the moment saying this is a Radiant announcement, a Radiant return announcement. But anyway, we'll move on from that swiftly, I think. So listen, part of this stream really is a bit career orientated. Obviously, I know that you're still very young. You're still kind of fresh into your career, and that's an unusual journey that people aren't necessarily going to be familiar with. Obviously, we've talked about how you started your own business and how you went down that road, and now you've got your full-time role under an already established org, which is of course XL Esports. So, how did you manage to break into a full-time position? Was it the experience that you gained at Radiant? Was it your winning personality? Did you pay somebody on on a corner of a street somewhere? How did you end up finding yourself a full-time position?
God, yeah, I do think I credit it back to Radiant because like most employers will be super impressed by it. And I do speak about it humbly because I don't see it as this big like achievement sometimes, which maybe I should do more often. But yeah, when you say, look, I started this at 15, got a couple thousand pounds worth of sponsors on board, grew content creators that are now working full time off that. If you list it off like that and list off some numbers, then maybe it sounds super impressive and that's enough on your CV. I credit mostly to Radiant. I think I credit also to probably I've always had this attitude of wanting more, which can be very unhealthy sometimes, but wanting more in the sense that whether that's just, well, I guess the best sense in terms of here is just a career progression, a clear career progression. And unfortunately, I spent 2 years, I guess my first kind of esports work doing freelance stuff, which like I don't discredit at all. It was fun doing, and I learned a lot from it. A lot of lessons come from I think hardships are the best lessons, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
freelance work is not something I ever want to go back.
Interesting.
Unreliable sometimes. It's just not fun. It's really not fun, mate. Like having a job that I get paid on the same time every month securely, and it happens. I don't have to chase or do anything like that. They do all the taxes for me as well. It's much better. My life's much better now. I don't want to go back to that freelance
That's
side
interesting.
again.
I know a lot of people are saying that all they want is to be their own boss and to have
Yeah,
that freedom. I guess there are pros and cons to working for people. Obviously, just mentioned some of the more
yeah.
safety ones there. That secure paycheck, that it, not necessarily having to fill out your own tax returns or anything, but just that stability. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously
Biggest thing, yeah. I think, God, I enjoy what I'm doing now at Excel because I get to super creative team. I get to have a large input on some of the things, even though I'm just a social media manager at the end of the day. There is a clear career progression for me, so everything's really lined up for me, and it's a lot more comfortable. And comfortable is a weird word because I've just said I like to chase and move forward and just improve at all times. But it's happiness. What I guess I'm looking for right now. There was 2 years where, especially during Radiant, it was always I'm very fueled on being the best, making sure Radiant's the best and better than all the competitors in the amateur scene. I think that was a little bit unhealthy sometimes, and now I'm thinking I'm in just a much better place of a space of me wanting to learn and improve about the marketing space and the social media world in esports. I think the environment at Excel serves that for me. I'm happy. Like that's the biggest thing.
Brilliant. I'm really really glad to hear it. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's uncountable the amount of times I've met people in the over my life who've gone, "Oh, I hate my job. I can't wait
Yeah,
to quit or whatever. Don't like my boss." And it's really
cool.
inspiring when you have somebody who goes, "Yeah, I love what I do, and I'm really happy here." I'm sure that Excel are very happy with you, and are also happy to have employed you too, for the same reasons. So, I mean, you did just mention though in that answer to the last question, you said, "Oh, I'm just a social media manager," and that kind of brings me to my next question, really, which was going to be, what do you actually do? What is your role as a social media manager? Is it just posting tweets, or is there more to it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And God, it's hard for me to break down because it's ever evolving. It changes every day.
Mm.
I make a joke about roles in esports all the time. That look, sometimes you're hired as a graphic designer, but you're also expected to be able to lay bricks of a foundation
Oh,
and
yes, I'm
build
very
something.
aware.
Yeah, I'm sure. Look, if anyone in the chat has worked in esports, and you that response from yourself definitely that clears that up. Look, like I said, as a joke, like you can be hired for one thing and do something absolutely different that's not on your contract at all, and something totally out of the blue. But that's what I love about the industry, and that's what I love about my job. It's not just tweeting. Unfortunately, what people think, there's a lot more to it. Sometimes, look, it can vary every day. So if we have a weekend of tournaments, then look, most of my job is going to be social coverage, and that'll take up 90% of that weekend. However, if it's not, then it'll be more. Sometimes it can be boring, like reporting, creating reports for partners, creating reports for investors, creating reports for any stakeholder really that's inside the business or outside the business. But sometimes I quite looking at that analytical side. Look, I have to be in the mood to look at analytics and break it down because a lot of numbers can just absolutely fry
Yep.
your brain sometimes, I'm sure as you may know. But sometimes it's really fun breaking it down. And look, we have a Monday meeting every week. We've just done
Is it
that earlier
every
today.
Monday by any chance?
Yes, every Monday, to be clear. But my kind of job in these meetings is just to break down some basic stats of socials, the website, and stuff like that. So yeah, my job is ever evolving. I don't think I can answer it giving like a list of what I do each day because it changes every single day. I think the main thing is definitely social coverage is a big part, of course. Social strategy is definitely a big part as well. Looking at what kind of platforms we should post and how we should post about them. But a big thing is partners for sure. Look, if partners need me, if we get a new partner, and we need to create a social content strategy and how we talk about these, like what's the partnership deal, do we have to do this amount many posts with players, this amount of many posts on our channels, this amount of videos, and we need to organize that ahead of time, of course, too. So it's a mixture of like strategy, which is creating plans and stuff like that, actual coverage, and populating the channels day to day, which can take time some days, which other days it's absolutely pips and takes an hour. And then there's the reporting side. I'd say they're like the three main headers if you wanted to put it into that. But it's ever evolving. Look, I do website stuff at the same time because I have experience from my apprenticeship in like SEO, Google Analytics, Google AdWords, paid strategy. That's what I do under Excel too, all our paid strategy if we do that. So yeah, it's ever evolving, and my role's definitely not just and that look, if I was to get a social media job outside the industry, then my job would be very traditional social media manager. However, in esports, it's like times by 10, and you're supposed to be an expert in like every different field at once. So yeah, I enjoy it because like I'm learning about new things. I've always prided myself on being good at a lot of things rather than being great at one thing, which is a bit more better in the esports world, I think, because it's ever evolving. It's an ever evolving industry at the end of the day, and there's so many things to do. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I imagine this falls into the category of things you don't normally do. Turn up on an interview for a stream in the
Yeah, and of
afternoon.
course, yeah. Absolutely. No, I think I credit this again to Radiant. Me talking in front of a camera became more comfortable when we did like documentary series, or I had to do sponsored pieces, and I was the only person they could really like talk through, the avenue go through me. So I'm a bit more comfortable on camera than people who haven't had that experience before. Sure, but I'm just like I just talk dribble most of the time. Once I'm going, like you can't stop. You know what I mean? You have to like get the engine started though first.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel you when you said, you need to know a bit of everything and you can't just, my role at the British Esports Association, my title is Schools and Colleges Liaison Officer. Now, that means that I'm supposed to go out, talk to schools, talk to teachers, parents, carers, and facilitate their institutions to joining our esports championships, which I do. But then, I mean, I know COVID has hit that
Yeah.
massively, but even before COVID hit, I was still doing event management, I was still doing project work, so I was still doing report writing, and of course now I'm doing the streaming, which is, quite a significant chunk of time. But yeah, you just have to kind
Would
of.
you change it? That's the question. Would you change it
No,
back
I
to the?
absolutely love
Yeah,
it. Absolutely love it.
there we go.
Yeah,
Then yeah, I think,
I'll
and
be one of those
I'm
sink or swim people and just crack your knuckles and get on with it. Or
yeah, I'm the exact same thing. Yeah, it's a strange world, the esports world. Anyone that's like super like endemic outside the industry and comes in would be like freaked out. You know what I mean? They'd be very confused why they're having to do this and this and
yeah,
that. I think it puts us in a better position, right?
absolutely, absolutely. So, why do you think then that social media is so important to the esports industry? What makes that role important for esports teams, esports orgs, individuals? Why
I
why is
love
social media necessary?
I love this question, and I get it. I think every time we talk about it on like a different podcast, but because I like mentioning it because I put it in perspective for everyone that may not, and I have to put this in perspective sometimes because it's quite strange talking about it. Look, any normal business outside of esports, let's just say Coca-Cola, for example, rely on a lot of traditional marketing. Normal marketing is like social media plays a part in it, right? Probably a big part these days, of course. But esports is probably one of the only industries that relies fully on social media. Like your brand is all on social media. It's 100% of it. It's not your website is definitely important, of course. And I think websites are becoming more and more important, especially at Excel. We're focusing more of it and how we can make it kind of like a landing platform, be
Yeah,
super beneficial for people to come to. But in esports, your entire brand presence is on social media, which is strange to put sometimes. I think it's gotten more normal for me now. But it's weird to say because that's not the norm at all, right? If you take any company outside esports, then they rely on social media. Yeah, definitely quite a bit these days. 10 years ago, they didn't at all because it didn't really exist. Um, but it's strange how it's changed. I think it's vital. Like if you don't have a social media presence, you're not in esports. You know what I mean? With that, basically every single esports fan is present on some kind of social media, whether that's Facebook. I know it's kind of brought up as kind of like irrelevant social media these days, but it's still relevant for markets like Dota 2, especially. But Twitter is definitely I think the main one that we always bring up these days.
yeah,
That's where the majority of the esports audience lands. Um, I think it works best on Twitter just because of the timeline method, how like it's live tweeting, it's live reporting, it's you see everything as it comes out. Henceforth, it's really good for like posting results or posting reactive memes or whatever it is. Instagram is like a strange platform for esports. I think I'm kind of breaking it down platform by platform, but Instagram's a weird one. Some people just go with the straight meme formats because memes do really well on Instagram. Some people take like a cleaner route, which we do. Each works, I think, but I guess I'm quite excited to see how Instagram shapes up in the next couple of years. Will it go back to its roots and become more of a clean platform that is just used for photos, or will it just ever evolve into this meme platform? And it's definitely becoming more and more of a shop, as we can see already, which not a lot of people are happy with. But is it just going to become more e-commerce and clean? Just e-commerce and totally and just memes, or will it just be just encompassed by memes and just become like another Twitter? Basically, we'll find out, I guess, soon. But yeah, I mean, it's if you don't have social media and you're an esports organization, then you don't really exist. Simple as that. So the importance is, invaluable, really.
well, thankfully, I'm not an esports organisation, and I mentioned this, and you can see below my name, I have got the handle at British Esports. But if you message at British Esports, there is zero chance you'll get hold of me, as I have not been on a social media platform for over a decade now. Actually, that is not strictly true. I do have Facebook,
Oh,
but
you
I
do.
but I only turn it on between like the 10th of December and the 20th of December when I need to find out who I get for Secret Santa in the family group, and then I deactivate it again. So that is all I have. But yeah, and obviously, talking about the social platforms, what's your opinion on? Because I know you went for it platform by platform, but we didn't touch on TikTok, and I know that that's quite a wild concept at the moment. That it's still developing. It's still relatively new in terms of the platforms themselves, comparatively anyway. But it has made a massive impact on the scene. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok sticks out like a sore thumb. I think it's the first platform that's come out and everyone is able to rapidly grow on it, which is quite interesting. It's definitely a totally different strategy, and sometimes I think esports orgs at the moment are really struggling with, okay, how do we turn our 1920 by 1080 content into this that's easily to watch on a phone, and can be quite difficult. Like some organizations just leave it in a square box and leave the top and the blank, in huge blanks. But I think there definitely is a strategy to go down. We're definitely talking about internally at Excel how we can more benefit from TikTok. And look, we do have, I think, 19,000 followers over there at the moment. It's a platform that is really the sky's the limit. There is no anything that is possible can be done on TikTok and can really help your platform. Look, I use TikTok on the daily. I think I saw a stat too. I was looking into it a couple of weeks back. TikTok is by far the social media platform that people engage with the most in terms of like average session duration. I think the average in the US was something like 47 minutes a day.
Wow,
That's like just browsing, which is
it's a lot. Yeah,
crazy number. Instagram and Twitter, I don't think come even near to that. In terms of on like a phone, actual browsing, like a session. And just to be clear, like 47 minutes
yeah,
is a session non-stop. That's
yeah.
not 47 minutes during the day. That's 47 minutes without stopping. That I mean, if you compare it to Instagram and Twitter from your own personal experience, and obviously you can't, but from my only personal experience, I'm never scrolling 7 minutes. I'm never scrolling Instagram for more than 10 minutes. So that's an insane, incredible number, and it just shows that what you can really do on that platform. You've seen like creative ways of, I guess, sponsors have took to that platform. But I mean, it truly is the sky's the limit over there. We're definitely focused on a little bit more in the upcoming months. It's definitely more of like what we found is more of a Fortnite heavy focus, which makes sense with the
Oh,
demographic.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, TikTok's an interesting one, man. It's crazy because you could get 1 million followers overnight, and that is absolutely
Wow.
possible. Which is a strange one to think because we live in the world, especially with Instagram and Twitter, definitely are the main platforms for esports right now. Um, that can't happen. You know what I mean? That can't
Yeah,
happen
yeah.
on those platforms at all. You don't get close to that. Look, you can get viral content on any of these platforms for sure, but you don't get the conversion rate like you do on TikTok. Yeah, it's exciting, man. It gets me quite excited to talk about because it kind of came out of the blue. Look, it wasn't a new platform really because we've had Vine for like a while, and losing Vine was obviously a big loss. And then we had Musically for a while too, but now TikTok is like the newest version of that. And they seem to just be doing everything right, and I can't see it ever going. Obviously, there was slight controversies about like privacy data and all that, but we won't jump into that. So yeah, I mean, it's an exciting platform, and it really is. Anything is possible over there, which is quite a scary thought, but also quite an exciting thought in terms of, okay, let's trial and error as most social media is. Let's trial and error over there and see so because the weirdest post ever can go viral, and then the next day you've gained 100,000 followers overnight, and it's like, oh, okay, that's nice. Now how do we keep the momentum going?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mention TikTok, but it is one to focus on a lot, and it is one esports organizations have and already jumped on, and I think is it TSM that are already at 1 million followers? I want to say 1 million, maybe I'm wrong, but I think they
I
are.
mean, you're asking the completely wrong person.
But yeah, I mean, it's super interesting platform. It's totally different to anything else out there. It is really exciting. It's just we need to, as an organization at Excel, we need to capitalize on it more for sure.
Yeah. So listen, there's been a few questions coming in over chat. I'll just kind of go through a couple of them quickly in case people have to leave or whatever. I'd rather not wait to the end if I see them. So one of them being, what are your thoughts on the current AM semi-A pro scene since Radiant's departure from esports? That was from ELR Media.
God, it's something I haven't too much. I see some amateur organizations on my timeline. I know there's some competitors of Radiant that are still continuing these days and still going on. Fair enough to them. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because I don't follow it too much. So I'm not that passionate on the amateur scene anymore because I'm too focused on what I do at my job, and I need to be
Yeah,
passionate about that to do it well. But I think, look, God, there's a few out there that do it right, and I won't name names. There's a few out there that do it wrong, and again, I won't name names. But I think the amateur scene at the moment, I wouldn't say it's got better. I wouldn't say it's decreased anything. It's probably just stayed the same. If anything, we need an amateur organization. What the peak of amateur orgs was when there was competition and rivalries, and that attaches mainly because the main esport back then was Call of Duty in our scene. Um, and Call of Duty is known to be unmatched in esports for its rivalries. No esport comes close to it for creating these storylines. Look, esports orgs just need to have fun with each other, and at the pro level, they do most of the time. They have jokes with each other at the end of the day, but amateur orgs just tend to miss that out. They just kind of tweet out just the regular stuff, and then do the match reports, do all this, and then leave it and just continue like any normal organization. Someone needs to jump up and start talking a bit of I won't say the word, but start talking some, starting creating some banter. I think that's the best way of putting it. Start creating some banter in the amateur esports scene. That's what we need. I want people to have fun with it. Look, it's amateur esports. You don't need to be professional like a big large esports organization. Have fun. You know what I mean? There is limits, and I do recommend not
yeah,
going
yeah.
mental
Of course.
because you're just going to ruin your chance of ever like getting a sponsor or whatever that is. But have fun with it. Look, you're amateur org. Radiant got away with a lot of things because we were amateur. Look, if we were professional, then maybe we wouldn't have got away with those things. Go have fun with it. It's amateur esports. Most of the time, it's not getting paid. Nobody's getting paid, so you might as well start learning things for yourself. Have that kind of initiative to just do things, bring ideas to the table. Most of the time, like if you're social media manager for an amateur esports organization, you won't have to go to the owner to get things approved. It's just like they just look at you to own it all. So go do it. Just get started. Like have fun with it, just start having banter with these other organizations. And if you don't, like if they don't react to that, then maybe it's just a question of reaching out personally on a personal level and not. This sounds strange because this is like the social media world you don't see. When you see these big influencers posting, most people think, oh, like it's them speaking, so I'm going to tweet at them and all that.
Yeah,
But most social media managers, to be fair, it's becoming more of a normal thing. Most people now know it's just an agent behind the screen,
yeah,
right? But it's like just go reach out to them and go, look, I am trying to create this brand. I'm trying to create this rivalry. Are you interested in doing something fun? Let's maybe do a collaboration, work together more in the amateur esports. Look, you've got nothing to. You don't see many professional organizations these days working together at this level because look, there's most of the time it's a sponsor clash, right? You have different sponsors in the same field, so you can't really partner up on anything because you clash in some way. But there was a good example was G2 approached us back in I want to say June or July, I'm not too sure. It was in the off season, and they basically said, look, we're in lockdown. Uh, Summer split is coming up soon. Let's do a community LEC Cup. Basically, we had to get it approved by Riot, of course, which they were totally fine about. All the LEC teams created their own community team out of fans, and we played in a tournament that got casted by the LEC casters, which were totally
nice.
happy to do it for
Yeah,
free. So it was super beneficial, and that's probably the best thing that one of the best collaborations that like esports orgs have come together and do, which is really nice. And at the end of the day, for stuff like that, we're all working on the same goal, which is nice. But amateur esports, you've got nothing to lose, man. Most of you don't have big sponsors, big headline sponsors that are going to clash, and if you do, they don't pay and they don't really care that if you do anyway. So just go out there, work together, help better the scene. There's a lot more to be done. But yeah, I think look, amateur esports will always be a thing. I hope it's very
yeah. It would
important
be. It would,
in this industry. It's so
undoubtedly. Yeah,
like yeah. If you don't have amateur esports, then where's the ladder to the top, right? And that's why
exactly.
look, I don't want to talk about Call of Duty because I'm very passionate about it in terms of what Activision Blizzard have done and how they've ruined the amateur community in my mind. But there's certain esports that need that level, and Riot, I think, are probably the good example of what they have done with the ERLs, and even lower. But before that, you've got the UK EL, which Radiant was in. There's like an obvious ladder to get to the top, which I think every title needs and every esport needs. It's just sometimes it's not uh, as beneficial as others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a few follow-up questions as well, but I think you answered them both in that, which was what are your tips for smaller orgs, how to grow on social media? I mean, you 100% covered that, and
Yeah.
also, what do you? Well, maybe you didn't. I'll just ask you to just maybe name drop like 2 or 3 on this one. Who do you think are the next orgs then that can make it to the next level?
Oh man.
Should we come back to that? Should I give you a bit of time
I
to have a think about that?
yeah,
We'll come back to that
I
at
think
the end.
it's different competitively. Hmm. Yeah, let's come back to
Let's come back to that. All right, all right. So, um, just talking about the workload, then going back to what you were saying before, when your day-to-day stuff, and it's extremely varied. But obviously, one of the main points of your role is the social media creation. Writing the tweets, writing the posts, posting the pictures, the memes, whatever. Uh, what do you prefer to do as your day-to-day role? Do you prefer to do that element of it, or do you prefer the networking side of things? Do you prefer, living in the games houses? Do you prefer, I don't know, any other part? What's your favorite part of the role?
Ooh. I think I prefer it's definitely comes to social coverage, I think, because this is why I was
Yeah,
super interested in writing today. I think I like making people happy. You know what I mean? That whether that can
that's
really
a nice
range.
thing to say.
Yeah, it's wholesome. That can be that can be a stakeholder internally. That can be our CEO because I've sent him like a detailed report that he enjoys. Right, that's a really weird example. Or it could be one of our players that I said, look, a good example was Torre support LEC support was struggling quite a bit with social backlash. He took a step back from socials, but he absolutely played insane on the last weekend. And we did like a nice tweet that he wouldn't have seen. Obviously, he took a step away. Basically like send some love to Tori, and I linked in the tweet and there was lovely comments. All the comments were lovely and he just said he really appreciated it. So that's a good example of like an internal stakeholder there. I think externally is where the best parts come is our fans that we deal with. And I hate using the word fans, but I've just kind of used it. I refuse to use it at Radiant when running Radiant because I think it's really like a belittling
I like the
term.
word community.
Yeah,
Our
I
community,
prefer that.
or yeah,
I think I've stuck to fans these days because if I use another word, then some main people not understand. I don't want to keep explaining why I don't like fans, but I think it's a belittling term, and I don't like it at all. But like the people we interact with on socials that support Excel, I love interacting with them. Like sometimes when we're losing on a losing streak, it could be a little bit rough, but because we didn't make LEC playoffs this split again, so it's our 5th time not making it.
ouch.
Look, I was expecting some rough comments. I'm not going to lie. I was expecting some nasty things said. And I woke up the next day because I kind of refused to look at it until the next day because there was so
Wise.
many. And mate, it was so wholesome. I'm
Was
talking
it?
99%
That's good.
positive.
That's really good.
So lovely to see and so lovely to soak up. Makes my job much better. My
Well,
job.
what a
And
nice community.
yeah, exactly. And it was just nice to interact. But I like doing these experiences that we make them happier, make their days better. And there's lots of talks of things we're doing internally that can really help our community and our fan base. But yeah, that's what I think. It's making people happy.
Good answer. Very, very solid. I like it. I got a question here from Bishop R6S, presumably Rainbow Six Siege. Could you ask, what are your thoughts on esports agencies?
In terms of like these,
I don't know. That's
yeah,
the whole question. I read it word for word.
yeah, I guess esports. Oh god, dog's not happy.
Oh, there was another question as well. Can you show Lux on screen, which presumably is your dog?
Yeah, she's just gone into the living room after I heard the door close. So she's not happy. I think she's chasing cats at the moment.
Gotcha.
So probably not. But esports agencies, I think like, probably need to have further question. Is it in terms of like these companies that are working free agent and helping like esports orgs with like content and live production? Because I think they're great. I think Hot Drop, I'm going to name one, is a good example. Like a lot of ex ESL UK employees, and they do a really good job over there. Or if you're talking like player agencies that look after player contracts, yeah, I think they're also good. And we've just dealt with one with getting David P, our Valorant roster. Yeah, they're good because they look after the players, make sure they're not getting screwed over at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, esports agencies are good. There's definitely some bad ones out there, I'm sure, but most
Yeah.
of the ones we deal with on a regular basis are really positive.
Good, good.
So yeah.
Yeah, there's always cowboys in every industry, isn't there? So,
Of course there is, yeah, especially
yeah.
this like when we're still a
We're in
fresh new
yeah,
industry. There's some nasty people there.
it's the opportunities there, isn't it? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
of
I
course.
mean, it's kind of not tough to go unless you've got recommendations from people. As you've just
Absolutely.
mentioned a couple, so that's good to know as well. Follow your friends and follow their footsteps if they've had a good experience with somebody. That's why they have all those. I mean, I know it's completely unrelated, but like Checker Trade, that's
Yeah.
the whole point of those review websites, is so that people can trust people elsewhere who aren't trying to take advantage of people. Cool. All right, I've got a question here that I thought was really interesting, and it's a concept that I'd not necessarily heard of before, and it's called the Wendy's style. Okay, so the question is, many people have started to adopt Wendy's style, which is essentially roasting everybody on the internet.
Yeah.
All bad press is good press, or something like that, I think is
Oh, I
the
hate that quote. I hate it. I
yeah.
can't. It's so not true, is it?
So,
Bad
so,
press is
so
bad
what's
press. Good
what's
press is
your
good.
thoughts on that style, and why would you say that it's a good path or a bad path to take?
Yeah, it works for some. Look, I think it's a good start, and it works for some. But it's very important. I keep coming back to this. Look, someone contacted me the other day, tweets a lot of memes saying, "Look, join an esports organization, just post loads of fun content." It's like, I get you, mate. I totally get you. Trust me. But there's a little bit more complexity to it at the end of the day. There's a little bit more of, okay, how do I talk like the brand? What's the brand? What does the brand represent? What's the brand's tone of voice? There's a lot more to it. If it fits your brand, then you go with that Wendy's style, of course, right? If it doesn't, then you don't. I think the good example who do it probably the closest is G2. They have all rights to do it because look, they have the best teams in the best esports. Really, they win a lot of things,
Yeah.
so they're at the top most of the time,
So
and
you
you
can
can't
smack
really.
talk, but only when you got the skill to back it up, right?
And I think, yeah,
Is that your
look, you can
advice?
have, yeah, you can have fun with it, but look, nobody likes. I guess a good example is putting it in a dog form. Nobody likes a little dog that's just barking at the big dog all the times, right? Because what are you barking at? You're not going to do anything. Do you know what I mean? You have no power here. You're a tiny little dog. So a tiny little, having like a tiny esports organization just barking at G2 and barking at Fnatic, like these giants, and just trying to have banter with them, is like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? It's not really working. You're just trying to grab it. Basically, you're trying to hope that one day they respond, and that's your monthly analytics done for that. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. Like, yeah, if you're a big dog, then you can start barking at the bigger dogs and definitely take the mick out of the smaller dogs. You have that power. There's definitely limits to this, of course. Like everything, but yeah, look, if you want to take that style, you take that style, but you better know that if you can't back it with the results, then you're going to get bitten even harder. Do you know?
Like it. I like your analogy there.
Yeah.
There's a question in chat from Sue Collins. Nathan, how do I get out of Iron?
So, I mean, first, if we're talking League of Legends here, you need to play League more. You just play Valorant. Talking Valorant, go
Yeah,
for
put Vanguard away.
yeah.
Start playing the original client.
Yeah, if we're talking Valorant, so look, you have the perfect person that's probably sat next to you right this moment, to go speak to in terms of Valorant. So you have no excuse to not be absolute. You should be Radiant in Valorant, if anything. So isn't it weird that they named it Radiant, by the way, too? What a legacy to the esports organization,
A
eh?
homage. A
Yeah,
homage.
it's,
Wicked. All right. How do you keep up with the latest trends in the industry? Now, I know you've got a significant advantage to me in that you actually use social media. You're still relatively young, but I mean, what? How do you know when the next memes are coming? What's going to be funny? I mean, I spend a lot of my time talking to students and interacting with them and their teachers as well, and I see the kind of difference in the way they talk to each other, and I'm like, okay, so that's a meme now apparently, and that's a dead meme, and you shouldn't be laughing at that anymore. Like, how on earth do you keep up with all that?
it's a good question. I don't think there's even one way of answering it, honestly, because sometimes it's when I try to describe it internally. If someone comes to me and goes, right, let's do this for like a partner, I think this would be quite funny, and I just have to turn around and say, no, that's a what you put it is a dead meme. It's an old meme that nobody's gonna react to well right now, and unfortunately, sometimes they pop back up again. The meme culture is a weird thing. I don't
Yeah,
think anyone really understands it. It's run by the whole internet, really, which is obviously a mixture of some strange people and good people,
and
all different
unmoderated as well.
people. Yeah, of course. You get some lovely dark memes out there too. But how I follow it best is I follow a lot of people on social media, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are the main platforms I use. So I'm just kind of looking for, okay, if I see a certain post, what I like to do most of the time is like take that post, break it apart, take a good thing from it, and then put it aside. If another post comes out that I like, I put take a small part from that, put it together like I'm making my own thing that I've taken different parts from elsewhere, and then I make my own like custom weird meme. Like sometimes on TikTok you'll see things that inspire you and just shoot something in the brain. You go, okay, I'm going to write that down, come back to it tomorrow, and create a graphic about it. Even though TikTok it was a video. And there's some trends that every esports org pops on. Sometimes I know Excel has started like a trend or two once. Other organizations would have started trends that other orgs just hop on board with it because it seems like an obvious quick win. I guess the obvious one that I think most people have always used, if you've ever been, and you won't be able to relate this because you don't use social media, but it's like a graph of A, B, C, D, E, F, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's like, okay, pick your favorite letter and number, and then whatever it matches with, I think is the meme format. I'm not too sure, I forgot now, which is great.
Okay.
But it's also like, okay, I guess another example is what's your birth month and what's your birthday. So you go, okay, you have a different League of Legends champion for every month. So you'll go, I'm stuck with Yorick, or I'm stuck with Yumi. That's unfortunate because I'm February or whatever. So it's like just quick engagement wins for your fans by kind of saying, okay, you have to play this champion for the rest of your life if you're whatever.
Got it.
Do you know what I mean? You kind of get it. But people like commenting what they've got. People love speaking about what relates to them. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they get a really crap champion. Sometimes they'll be like, oh my god, that's my actual main. I actually. But at the end of the day, it's never realistic, and sometimes I have to explain to stakeholders that look. Yes, it's saying it's attached to these dates, but there is no pressure. Like nobody sees that and go, oh my god, I actually have to play Yorick for the rest of my life. Of course they don't. You know what I mean? That's some things to understand about memes. Is that they're never that real. Do you know what I mean? They're never that like actual perspective. I can hear my mum shouting at my dog. My dog's being naughty apparently. Hopefully that answers it.
That's fine. It's totally understandable. We're all in this work from home scenario, and it's we've had a few unexpected guests on stream before, so the odd mum shouting in the background, that's not the end of the world. So listen, one of the interesting points that I wanted to talk about, and I don't actually know how much your involvement is, but obviously after the announcement in December that Dele Alli would be joining as the ambassador of Excel, what's it like working with him? Do you get to talk to him, spend time? Do you work on any projects together?
Yeah, I've got a fun story with Dele.
Awesome.
So we announced him late November, but I think this was early November. It was the day that it was my first ever event that I'd run by myself, which was we brought some super fans, awful word to say, super fans down to Twickenham Stadium and showed them our new brand ahead of launch. This sounds like really illegal to say out loud because I've never said it aloud. It's all public now, so it's fine. So we showed them the brand, hopefully got them on board with it, of course, was the aim. Earlier in that day, we went over to Dele's house because obviously we'd confirmed Dele as our global ambassador a few weeks before. He basically needed help with his PC. His PC was just broken. So me and Kieran went over to his house. And to give context, that like London has some very expensive houses. And I was driving up because Kieran was already there and I had to drive from Twickenham to his house. And I was driving past some, big houses. I was like, wow, these are nice houses. Which one's Dele's? And then you just see this one that just stands out above the rest. You're like, oh, okay, that's Dele's. I had to call in, get the gates open. I drove in. I met to be honest, I'm not much of a football fan, and I don't get I used to do interviews for like press, so my nervous interview was Scump, I would probably say, or Hex, because they're the people I looked up to the most. If I don't follow football, so I didn't look at Dele like a big celebrity, if that makes sense, which may sound super strange.
Just walked in and went, hey, I'm the IT guy.
Yeah, so I was nervous, and maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I was like, oh, do you want me to keep my mask on? He was like, no, it's fine. Just like we fist bumped, and then we went to check out his PC. Unfortunately, wasn't able to fix it. It was like the fuse was just broken. It was absolutely ruined. But I do remember my best moment of the time was when we were talking about dogs. He's got a beautiful Doberman called Draco. I think he's posted about it on Instagram. But whilst I was down on the floor, like trying to fix the PC, Draco was literally just licking my face constantly. And he was being trained at the moment to be like a guard dog, bless him. So he was a lovely lovely guy. He's great to work with. Like the whole team's great to work with. So yeah, nothing bad to say about Dele, but it was fun that I've got to like meet him. I guess a good example. What I forgot to mention is my uncle. Before, because I told my family, my uncle sent me 2 England t-shirts to go up with, and he was happy to sign them. Bless him. So that was
beautiful. Oh, that's a good story. I like big friendly dogs.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Draco's so nice.
Okay, so I've kind of got through most. There's a few really key questions that I'm kind of saving till last, but I think I've got through most of everything else. There's a few more that have come in from chat, which I'll just ask now. Uh,
Mhm.
what are the main bad habits that you tend to see in the UK amateur scene when it comes to org management? What do you think could be learnt from other scenes around the world? And that's from Kintex.
God, I think I guess the obvious one in the room is less of like it's more of a serious because I see some amateur organizations just not paying players and not keeping like keeping standards up on deadlines of stuff like this. This is just something that needs to be fixed. If you promise a certain thing, make sure you can fully agree to it at the date that you set.
Yep.
Uh, like it's so important
Yep.
first experiences sometimes, and if you're not if you're not doing these first experience, not treating these players right in the first case, then they're not going to walk away from that brand and say nice things. They're not going to say nice things publicly. It's going to blow up, and that's going to be the end of your amateur organization, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, just be sensible. Sometimes there is the big example recently of Munster Gaming. I think that is the obvious one. Don't promise things that are not available. And if you are going to promise something, make sure 110%. Even calculate. Even with Radiant, I had to calculate sometimes. Okay, if I can't pay it, or if I have one shadow of a doubt that I won't have enough money, then I'm not going to do it. Always make sure, if anything, if you're really worried about that, make more budget available just in case, right, for an emergency. But be careful. Like, look, just don't mess people over. Look after people. Treat them right. Treat them well. And at the end of the day, understand you're an amateur organization. Your job is, as an amateur organization, to help people move up the ladder. Simple as that. That's your job is to serve these players, serve these content creators, serve these people, whilst you do the same as an organization. Never be salty that look, it hurts sometimes that content creators would come to me and say, look, a big organization with double the following has come to me and offered me like a paycheck, and I'm going, mate, take it. Take it, simple
Yeah.
as that. Of course it hurts sometimes, of course it does, because you're friends with these people, but it makes me so happy that people are moving up the ladder because of my brand that I built and helped them with. That's the big thing. Don't get salty that people are moving on and moving on to bigger and better things. Embrace it, because one day that could be your organization, right?
Yeah, and of course, you're not burning bridges. Of course, opportunities may come back for you later down the line as
Absolutely.
well. So,
Absolutely.
I wholly agree. Another question as well from Spirit Candy: how does live coverage work?
How does live? Yeah, I mean, like, okay, live coverage is so a good this weekend with the NLC Grand Finals. We won the Grand Finals. We threw out Fnatic, which is really good. We're now the champions of the NLC, thank God. Once again, I think live coverage can do it in different ways. We added a little bit more added stress on this weekend because Jay, our video guy, was there on site in Twickenham. So we play there. We're all dressed up in jerseys. Obviously, at the end of the day, the players are playing, and Jay takes photos. Jay takes tons. He's literally drowning me in content. Takes tons of photos, tons of videos of reactions. Puts them in SharePoint where I can download. I download, drag them in Photoshop, edit them slightly, whatever that is for Instagram and then Twitter, and I post about it. It's just been super reactive. Live coverage is
Yep.
basically just covering it as it goes. Yes, it's super stressful sometimes, and you're able to push things out you expected to push things out at minutes after it's actually happened on live stream, if not a minute. So yeah, it's tough sometimes, but I think it's really fun. Like I work best under some kind of pressure, and I've done live event coverage before. Probably the only big one was ESI London, which was a big business event over 3 days for the last company I worked with. So yeah, I love live coverage events, and doing it online is definitely a little bit more difficult. But Jay made my life much easier. Look, if you supply me the content, then I'll post it.
Do you think
Simple as that.
there's like a competition between you and the other team that you're playing, like between the social media teams? So who's going to get the content out first? Because presumably, if everybody's looking at Twitter waiting for that result post or waiting for that, what did he say to she said or whatnot, whoever gets there first is going to get the more traction, right?
I think yeah, I think it measures in terms of value of luck. If it's a game we've won, they've lost, then it's not going to matter. Everyone's waiting for
Yeah.
our post. Do you know what I mean? Because we're the winner. Everyone's waiting for our victory post. If it's a little bit different, let's say, because some teams like what we like to do, especially on socials, is during playoffs, which we're obviously not involved in most of the time, unfortunately, is we like to just post about some of the things going on between the matches. So sometimes there's a rush to it. Of course, there was definitely a rush. I guess the example was we're good friends with we built a good relationship over the last couple of months with LS, who's like a big League of Legends. I guess what you could call him, like caster analyst. He has a really kind of like different mind for the League of Legends worlds and breaks it down a bit more So what we did, especially during Worlds, was sit during his streams and like make jokes, and he looked like he always says hello to XO in the chat. And what we would do is like create memes about him and tweet about it, and he would always share and retweet. Like all the chat would be like Excel's tweet, Excel's tweet, Excel's tweet. Go look at it before he finally reacts to it and then laughs. So that stuff is super reactive, of course. Yeah, there's definitely some limits, but esports organizations, most of the time, especially during live coverage of matches, when you're against someone, it tends to not be like unless something mental has happened where you've traded 1-for-1 and it's like the weirdest trade ever, then there's definitely a rush to get that out. What organization get it out? Not even a rush between the two orgs. It'll be the tournament organizer too that wants to get it out, right? Anyone wants that first on their socials, and it's first to clip it, first to download it, edit it up, post it. So there's definitely a rush sometimes. Yeah, you're fighting with basically the tournament organizer that wants to publish content on their social media and the rival org. So it's fun. Yeah, it's stressful.
So listen, we're coming up to the end, and it's been great to chat with you so far. But I've got 2 questions left I want to ask you, and thank you everybody in the chat for commenting and putting in your input there as well. I have been reading it all. I know I haven't managed to read every comment out on stream today, but I do appreciate them all. Thank you very much. So the first of my penultimate question to you is, Nathan, as somebody who's successfully and gainfully employed, doing really well, has had quite a successful career to date. What is your advice to other people wishing to pursue the same career in social media management?
Good question. And I know you guys are good friends with Hitmark, so am I, unfortunately. I've just done a series with them, recently recorded it, and when I say with 3 videos on how to get a job in social media and esports, like breaking down the key points. So I mean, to give a quick overview, I think it's multiple things, and it's probably best to wait for them videos really, because it's a lot more in depth and breaks it down. But I think first, what you need to do is find out what you're interested in. And how I said that and kind of put it into perspective for Hitmarker was try different things, try different jobs and try different areas before you find out if you want to do social media. Because don't jump into the world of social media without knowing you want to do it, because you're only going to be wasting your time. I think, look, I use volunteering as an example, but you can also go locally to schools or work with, I don't know, maybe your parents' business or whatever company they're working for. There's multiple different avenues you can go down, but first find out what you enjoy. That's the biggest thing. Because look, social media is great, and if you're naturally creative, and most of the social media managers I know in esports are just creative people that have no marketing experience and just kind of like learn it on the trot. So it may be for you, it may not. Have a look into different things first. But if it is something for you, then look into, okay, not only how do you measure trends and follow trends, but how have a good basic understanding of some programs. I mean, Premiere Pro and Adobe Photoshop is like is the 2 that come to mind. Have a basic understanding of those, because but also understand the social media world. So there's a lot more to it than that 2-minute answer. And Hitmarker, the Hitmarker series will hopefully give a really good in-depth look into that. But yeah, first find out what you're interested in, because don't jump into something like a part-time, full-time job and dedicate all your resources to it just for you to turn out and go, okay, this is not fun at all.
Okay, so do your research, everybody, and make sure that you're following things that are interesting to you. Good, I like it. Okay, so the final question, and I'll save this one to last because I know it was quite prominent. Do you ever think that Radiant will return in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I get this question every time, and I think my answer is, look, someone comes along and gives me $1 million and goes, look, Buster, I want 1% of the business. Go start up a Radiant right now. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll quit everything I do and I'll go do it. Absolutely, it's my baby at the end of the day. But no, not if that's never going to happen, which it never is. No, Radiant's never going to return. Unfortunately, it's going to stay. Look, I had so many people messaging me saying I can buy it for ridiculous amounts of money, whether it'll be in legit or not. I'm not too sure. But I turned them all down because, look, it's my baby and it's gonna live as a long legacy. And whatever's there right now, it's going to sit like that. It's going to sit like an ancient ruin that people can go look back and look at the memories. I love looking back on Radiant stuff, man. I love it. So many cool things we did. So many memories, so many best friends that I've made. So, but yeah, it's never going to return. Never. Sorry.
Oh, well, I'm sure some people may cheer about that, but I think the majority will be a bit sad. Listen, Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, and thank you ever so much for giving us your time and your tips and your advice. Is there anything you want to shout out or cheer to before we head off?
No, likewise. Thanks. If you want to follow me, don't push people to do anything like that. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for obviously anybody watching. Hopefully that was some kind of somewhat interesting at some level. I love to do more like this in the future. But yeah, thank you for having me, and have a good one. Stay safe.
Listen, it was an absolute pleasure. Take care, and have a good rest of your week. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
All right, so that was Nathan. Everybody, I've to get rid of that. But yeah, I appreciate you all sticking around and listening to the content there that we've brought together for you. With Excel, of course, you can find out a little bit more if you want to. Feel free to email us or email or just get in touch with Nathan on his Twitter. And of course, we will engage and reply and send you any links you might need or any more information that you might want. Thank you, everyone in chat. It's been always a pleasure doing interview streams. I don't get to be on here doing interviews enough, but hopefully we're going to try and do a few more of these, at least 2 or 3 a month. So we're going to be getting some more great characters on, and hopefully we'll have Nathan back at some point in the future where we will be able to get some more dog streams, hopefully. Listen, guys, thank you all very much for being here. My name's been Elliot, of course. I'm the Schools and Colleges Liaison Officer. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.